This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and it's amazing actually what a good smartphone you can get for $249. This is the Moto G6, just available now, and it's not a big specs upgrade, honestly, from the G5 before. So if you have a G5 or G5 Plus, really, particularly, this one isn't going to rock your socks. But if you have a phone that's a couple of years old or older, or you just need a good Android smartphone now, and you want something from a reputable company that actually has support, decent software on it, well, this is it. And it's actually kind of styling, which is the focus of the phone this year. We're going to look at it now. So the phone runs Android 8.0 Oreo, not 8.1, notice, and Moto G phones don't tend to get OS updates so fast, so keep that in mind. On what's supposed to be the Snapdragon 450 or so, that's what all the specs have been running around have said so far. Moto's own website actually doesn't say. They just say 1.8 gigahertz octa-core CPU with Adreno 506 graphics. That could be the Snapdragon 450 or it could be the 625. And our benchmarks all show the MSM 8950 Qualcomm chipset, which would make it a 625. So this is a little bit of a canoodle and a mystery here, isn't it? When even Moto themselves isn't stating this clearly. At any rate, it's on the lower end for CPUs and for performance, and the UI does occasionally lag a little bit, but at this price, that's fair. You can get a OnePlus 6 for twice as much money and get certainly twice as much speed. Hey, that is what it is. The rest of the specs you can see on screen there as well, so you don't have to try to cram all this into your brain. 3 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of storage. There's only one configuration available. There's not two options with more RAM or more storage, that sort of thing. Micro SD card for cards up to 128 gigs. There's no NFC though, so there's no Google Pay, which in the old days for relatively inexpensive phones, that was okay, but this is 2018. That seems a little archaic. I'm kind of surprised. Even inexpensive phones are having NFC these days. Battery is pretty big for something without a demanding display or a demanding CPU, actually. That 3,000 milliamp battery means really nice long battery life. It supports Moto's quick charging method. They call it the turbocharger, which is in the box as well, so it charges fast. There's a headphone jack. Yay! It's one of the few phones to actually still have an FM radio here. And on the back, we have the usual, it's Moto's look there with that kind of Cyclops eye camera look there. We've got dual cameras for a phone in this price range. That's pretty impressive. It's a 12 megapixel main shooter with a 5 megapixel secondary f.8 lens. The secondary cameras there, you guessed it, for the usual portrait bokeh kind of effects, which are not as good as phones that cost a lot more. That's not a surprise, is it though? It looks kind of overly artificially blurry or sometimes a little nonsensically blurry, but it's better than nothing. And the camera, honestly, for the price isn't too bad in terms of exposure, color, sharpness. You get 1080p video recording at up to 60 frames per second. There's no 4K video recording here. It's an 8 megapixel front selfie camera, which is pretty decent. Single front speaker on this. It doubles as the earpiece. And that's it for the basic specs. So Moto software customizations are something that I really like, and they're very light. In terms of the user interface, they're not going to overwhelm you with Hello Kitty kind of look or anything like that. So for example, you have a attentive display. It keeps the screen on when you're looking at it. We've seen that on Samsung phones forever, but it's nice to see on a phone that's this affordable. The sleep screen on this, by the way, is that still that beautiful Moto display thing. Beautiful in terms of functionality, not in terms of looks. So you turn it off and it's off. But if you pick up the phone or you tap the screen, like I'm raising it, so you get your time, you get your status, any notifications that are going to show up there. It's just nice little simple things like that that they do so well. The phone has a front fingerprint scanner. Yay, not on the back, not an awkward place at all. It also doubles as a gesture pad if you want to try to replace the on-screen navigation buttons. I have no desire to do so. It kind of works okay for doing that. It also has facial recognition for logon, which is pretty fast, but they actually warn you when you set it up, and we'll do it right here so you can see how fast it is. Let's do that. In my face, there it is, it's unlocked. They warn you that anybody who looks like you, a picture of you, might fool it, so it's not something that is really secure. Keep that in mind. It is, however, fast, but given that this fingerprint scanner is located right in the front and works so well, I don't think that you're going to really not want to use the front fingerprint scanner. So you can see the user interface here, all pretty close to vanilla and stock Android, and our notification shade here. We even have Dolby software on board, and that's pretty surprising. Your settings menu like such. It's all pretty well done in that respect. Now, the day-to-day navigation when I'm swiping through there, that seems pretty fine, but I do notice occasional delays. Sometimes like launching the camera, let's give it something to look at right there. That wasn't too bad, but sometimes taking a photo takes a little bit. There's no dual domain pixel autofocus or anything like that going on here. You do, however, have HDR. You've got quick settings to go to your photos versus your video, and here's the access to all of the features. So you've got your face filters on here. Portrait mode, again, is that bokeh kind of mode, and all that sort of thing. It's not really a bad camera, folks. For the price, honestly, I was pretty impressed with it. That said, compared to today's flagship phones, you know, the image quality isn't going to be as good. Low light is where it particularly takes a hurt. The low light photos on this, you can see a few photos going across screen, particularly with the cat. Even with the flash, it just tends to white things out. That mug on my desk, it looks pretty dreary. So this is more of a daytime kind of camera. The display on this is IPS. Sorry, no AMOLED or OLED display here. It's okay display. It's not super vivid in terms of colors. The viewing angles are okay too. It shifts brightness a bit off angle, but it's not terrible. The resolution on this is typical for today, the 18:9 aspect ratio, so it's tall and narrow going this way. The bezels have gotten small. It's 2160 by 1080 resolution. That's 470 ppi. So in terms of sharpness, it's plenty good. This is Gorilla Glass 3. We have glass on the back now. Again, for the G6 generation, instead of going with much in the way of specs upgrade, they're going with the styling look. And you know, it's to be said, it's a nice enough looking phone. The curve here is pretty effective for keeping it in your hand. Since it's a glass phone, it's slippery. It's nice looking all in all. Your SIM carrier and micro SD card slot are under the pokey hole up top. As always, the headphone jack is on the bottom, along with the USB-C port, and your volume and power buttons are on the side, which is pretty normal. So it feels nice enough in hand, especially because it's a large phone, because it is that narrow, tall kind of aspect ratio, but it is a bit slippery being glass. It's available in black, and they're going to have a color called blush, which is kind of like a pale pink color coming soon. Just because it's a glass back, though, a lot like the OnePlus 5, that doesn't mean you get wireless charging. You don't with this. You just plug in the charger. Speaking of the OnePlus, a phone that costs twice as much and is still considered, relatively speaking, a bargain compared to the flagships, in terms of looks, here they are together. And I'd say that the Moto G6 for a phone this inexpensive is no slouch in terms of looks. Now turn them around to the front, and here's where the difference becomes apparent, other than the fact that the OnePlus 6 has a notch. It's a much brighter and more vivid display, but hey, it costs twice as much, so that's fair enough, isn't it? So that's the Moto G6, a lot of phone for the price, and pretty friendly, pretty easy to set up and use, a lot more trustworthy than no-name import phones. It has a couple of name brand competitors. Huawei's coming with the Honor 7X that we're going to be reviewing. Nokia has some nice phones, but this is one of the few that does both GSM and CDMA. So if you're on a CDMA carrier like Verizon or Sprint, for example, those others aren't going to do you any good. This one will work for you. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, and thumbs up if you like this vid.